What's up, Treehouse Tribe? Bringing you guys 1 o'clock a.m. news. Jesus Christ. I had to get out of bed for this one. Welcome to the eradication of red from our format. Jesus Christ. They were like... Alright, the news is we got a new ban list. Nami Searcher banned. Like you guys see it right here. You guys see it right here. Nami OP01 Searcher banned. New Gate Leader banned. Curly to Dawn banned. And then the OP03 Marco to 1. They literally hit every power card in red, and then just flat out banned Whitebeard. The reaction is kind of as you expected. People are like, law players are in shambles. The fact that they're reprinting the Searcher Nami, I think this Nami getting like 2 more reprints and it's just gonna be straight up banned for us. That's a little weird. All right, so let's like the Cardi Kazuku. That guy's a goat, by the way. He's putting all the work into the YouTube scene, honestly. But distracted. Sorry. Jesus Christ. These 3, I feel like would have been enough, but man, they get the Nami too. That just... So the Nami, like all of these, the Nami hits Zoro, I can't even say it hits Whitebeard. Imagine that. It hits the Zoro, hits the Law. The Dan Band hits the Zoro, hits the Law. Marco hits only the Zoro. And all 3 of these would have hit New Gate on top of that. But they were just, they're done, dude. Like, their gloves are off. They don't want to deal with this leader anymore. They don't want to hear people complain about this leader anymore. And you know what? I was willing to, like, all right, so my take. I think the Nami might be too much, but first and foremost, the leader ban. I was willing to wait until the 6K red purple Luffy came out. So because that would basically come out and determine whether is the 6K leader too strong fundamentally, or is it more the fact that it's a 6 life leader and they get more cards to, like, you know, make their plays more consistent, curve out better, more consistently, because they're getting 2 cards per turn, what people like to say. Is that the broken part? Or is it the 6K life? And with the starter decks come out like next week, like in a week or 2, like they're like right on the cusp of being here. And funny enough, they come with the Nami, and so like that being banned is kind of amusing. Marco to 1 was definitely a hit. I saw, like, I thought about, like, my big complaint with the Marco is, especially since like deep, like it just does its effect without pitch. Like, you compare it to similar effects, like, all right, for like Marco's for 5, right? Yeah, Marco's for 5, and like okay, so he's for 5 on play, KO's at 3K, right? Like, you compare that to other cards like Sakazuki. Sure, Sakazuki's a 6K body, but you have to pitch a card to get that KO. And like, oh, you can combo it with like DP reduction or cost reduction. You can combo this with DP reduction, so you can get a 5. Like, this plus Fire Fist was wild, right? Like, or not Fire Fist, Cross. One of them was minus. Like, I always forget, but one of them's like minus 4K to something. So that there's that. Or like, yeah, or like the Brook, like just comboing this with DP reduction only made it better, but like you never had to pitch a card compared to Sakazuki. And like, what does yellow get in comparison to this? Not much. Blue, it's like, what, like you get the Soga King and that bounces. That's not the same, right? Like a card in hand is still a card in hand, unless it bottom deck, then it would be different, but it doesn't. And then what other colors we got? Purple, you have to minus Dawn, but like you can argue like, like, oh, but the decks that play that's like, purple isn't good. Sorry, purple, you're just not good yet. Maybe after the starter decks we'll see some purple, but yet you guys aren't good yet. Sorry, yet. But it's just, this card was so good, and its contemporaries and the other colors just aren't able to keep up. So like, and that's not even talking about its on KO effect. Like, pitch an event and you can resurrect this character. So it's a 6K body and it's difficult to get rid of unless you're blue. or yellow. Yellow has some. I mean, really, yellow only has just Katakuri to deal with this, like without any response from your opponent. Yeah, you get my point. Ugh. So the Marco, like, not necessarily the hit I would have made. I probably would have hit the ace, but then people would just play Luffy. So this is like the easiest like hit, and then like there's no other like substitute. Like there's just no replacing Marco. Whereas like hitting ace, which I thought would have been a good hit, there is an argument to say, well, you just replace it with Luffy, and like maybe it doesn't get done what you want it to get done, but whatever. Wild. The Dan and like, okay, so the Dan and Nami hit obviously hits Zoro, obviously hits funny enough it hits Vivi too, because Vivi was playing the Nami to find the red rocks, find their 3 sword styles. So rest in peace, Vivi, I guess, maybe. But Curly to Dawn, like hitting both Nami and Curly to Dawn and just flat out banning them both, that seems a little extra. Like I could see banning Curly, but Nami on top of that, like especially with Whitebeard gone, is it really like, are we just saying that we don't want 1-cost searchers anymore? And on top of that, like what does that mean for cards in the future like Izo? Like is Izo on the chopping block soon? Buggy? Buggy at least doesn't have counter, but it also has like pseudo protection. You guys know what I mean if you know. The Dawn band, I get it. Like a searcher that searches searchers is not okay. Period. Like that was not good. Like that was bad design. I'm okay with that being gone. Especially it'll be interesting to see what happens to Zoro. So what happens to the meta? Oh my god. What happens to the meta? One Piece, I don't know, OP, what are we in, OP04 now? OP04 tier list. Because we're going into OP05. Alright, Eggman. Are we outing Eggman? Let's out Eggman. Oh no, it's a commercial. Oh, alright, well you guys listen to the commercial. We'll watch the commercial together. Or we go back to Twitter. Yeah, let's not give them free ads. Man, so at first, what does this do to the meta? Alright. Red's crippled. We can maybe see like Zoro first and foremost. We'll probably see people trying to attempt to either continue finding a way to keep the one drop engine alive by just adding making like a white strawbeard like fusion and just kind of running both low ends, and maybe that gets you there, because they were running Fire Fist. They were running a lot of the like ace like Whitebeard options, so they could still in theory like Izo into Whitebeard Pirates into a Fire Fist or a Buggy, and then I guess the Buggy's weird because no Dadan, but I could see people trying to keep the 1-drop Zoro Rush style alive, but it's gonna be a lot it's not going to be as card efficient, which was the problem. Dadan would find Nami would find Jet Pistol, and then you're off to the races. Nami not being able, and on top of that, Nami, like the thing that made Nami stronger than Izo was Nami could find Guard Point and Jet Pistol and Rad Beam, which made like, okay, Rad Beam's at 1, but I have 4 Nami. I'm going to find that Rad Beam. More or less, right? Just stuff like that. Like that is so wild. But what happens to the meta? All right, are we done with the ads? Yeah, we are. Look at that guy. He knows what he's talking about. Let's see. All right, so this is probably most people can agree with this the tier list. I mean, we'll just assume that like these tiers aren't necessarily in order, and just like general placing. And like, subscribe to Eggman, by the way, right? I don't have the bell, but subscribe to him. Oh, I didn't like the video. I like it now. Thanks. But man, all right, so what happens to the tier list then? Like, all right, so sorry, I'm half distracted. Whitebeard is gone, not in the discussion anymore. Flat out banned. Something I didn't think they would actually do was flat out ban a leader. And again, I was willing to wait. I wanted to see the experiment. Is the 6K leader too strong? We'll see we'll see after the starter decks what people are doing with the red purple Luffy. Because fundamentally, like, you sit across a 6K leader, your entire deck is worse, just worse for no reason. Like, we're literally like your Rush Zoro 3 drop 5K attack, no counter with Rush. That card was made with the idea that 5k leaders are the baseline, right? Instantly your opponent is a 6k leader. That changes the math, that changes the curve, that changes everything. It's just not, it just doesn't feel fair sitting down in front of a Whitebeard and then them being 6k. And I'm afraid that might be the case with Luffy too. The difference being Luffy doesn't draw the extra card a turn, which I like air quotes because like technically everybody gets that card. The difference was Whitebeard starts at 6 life, so they get one extra card than everybody else. Where Luffy is going to get 2 less cards than everybody else. So that'll be an interesting conversation. And people are always talking about like, oh, the 9 gate is at 1, Rad Beam's at 1, that's gonna hurt it. But everyone said that about Whitebeard, and look where we are now. So like I don't necessarily believe in that copium like, oh, the Rad Beam and the 9 gate are enough to nerf Luffy. Red purple Luffy, I should say. Yeah, that hurt. Oh, so basically all right, so if you can see my mouse, you can probably see my mouse. Yeah, you can see my mouse. Whitebeard gone. Zoro is in shambles, probably rethinking how to build the deck. Law has to rebuild their deck. They can't rely on Nami anymore to find their red stuff, which is usually their aggressive stuff, so they have to rely more on the Supernova engine. And then we'll see, maybe they switch over to like a Whitebeard's red half, or it'll be interesting to see what they try to do with the red half. I think the green half stays pretty much the same, and maybe they just go all, no, they can't go all green. So they have to, it'll be interesting to see where they take the red side of Law. I don't think Law is gone. Law might just fall below and be in like this competitive tier that he's got here. But I don't think Law and Zoro are just fundamentally gone, because Zoro's ability fundamentally is strong. Like if you have 5 bodies on board, you turn that one Dawn into 6k power on the board, and that's just fundamentally good. Same with Law. Law's effect is still good. It'll just be interesting. So the big thing everyone's going to be talking about, or I'm sorry, I guess I should just leave with this. I talk way too freaking much. It's been 12 minutes already. Katakuri. Everyone's talking about, like, I think the dominoes have started, right? I think I've mentioned here and there during my commentary gigs, or with talking with Eggman, or talking with, you know, Worst Generation, talking with Joey, talking with Kekfile, talking with Human, with like I talk to people. And I think everyone was kind of in agreement that like, if they hit red, Katakuri becomes a problem. The Chen Drop Mom is not okay. Like I've been to locals quite a few times where like Katakuri just sees double Big Mom, 10 Drop Mom. The game lasts long enough to get to double Big Mom, and that's it. Like, you just 10 Drop Mom is just too much for a lot of people, a lot of decks to deal with. So Katakuri definitely becomes like the deck with a target on its back. Absolutely. Is it tier 0? It's gonna be tier 1, at least in the beginning. Everyone's gonna be playing it. Everyone was playing it now. It just clearly did not have the conversion rate, and a lot of people are gonna say because of red. Red was keeping Katakuri down. Why? Because they were too fast, and they couldn't get to a point where they could 10 drop you and not die that turn. So to 10 drop you again and then could just get infinite value at that point. That was Yellow's struggle. If you were too fast, Yellow couldn't Big Mom you. But at the same time, we see Doflamingo take wins, right? We've seen Film Kid take wins. Does green come up now without red just shoving its cards down your throat? Green, Film Kid took wins, right? It's won an event. So has Dofi. Rebecca technically won the first OPO4 event, right? If you do not look at Top Cut, because it was a PPG Top Cut event, it was a PPG event that had a Top Cut, and Rebecca won Swiss, and in a lot of tournaments, that's it. That's the end of the tournament. Rebecca wins that tournament without a Top Cut. That's a conversation to have. Has Queen won an event? We're gonna Eggman events.com. All right, so I'm a Digimon channel, guys, by the way. Once again, eggmanevents.com. Eggman, you do everything. You're amazing, and you're the greatest resource this community has ever seen, and I'm done simping. Rebecca. Oh yeah, see, Rebecca won this one. The list was like whatever, or like I don't want to belittle it, but it was literally just a billion Dressrosa cards and 3K worlds, and that was the deck. Core. Yeah, Don Quixote won this one. Law won something. Trafalgar Law. Well, Law won this. Sorry, that's not a great example. But you see why Whitebeard may have been hit. Still something I never thought they would do. Wow. Newgate. Anyway, what does that do to the meta? Like, does Playhouse Disney Crocodile suddenly become really good? I don't know, man. So here's everybody's worry. Oh, we're gonna get ads again. Dang it, man. Here's everyone's worry. Katakuri is gonna be a problem. No deck can deal with Katakuri because 10 drop mom is gonna be too good, and it becomes tier 0, right? That could be true, but blue is also like, here's the dominoes of it. Like, to me, it's like if you hit red, Katakuri might be too good. And then you hit big, and then the gut reaction is, all right, let's limit Big Mom to 1, the 10 drop mom. And then what happens after that? Blue takes over because Crocodile's doing well. Rebecca apparently won an event. Quixote was always good. And then, like, what about Black? Black's tempos are always been pretty good. If they see curve, there were some historically, if black decks are on curve, like, people say that they're some of the best, like the best deck. They have the best curve in the game. People used to say, maybe they still say it. And then like decks like Yamato, no, decks like Yamato kind of just lose to Katakuri and then have like an okay matchup against everyone else. So that's not fair. Funny enough, this is another. I mean, I don't know how many Ace doesn't get hit by this ban list as much as the other red decks do. They were running the Marco, but I feel like they're okay not having the Marco and at least keeping all their events and stuff that make them good. Like, I don't feel like they were like, all right, okay, never mind. Maybe the Marco is kind of a big hit to them. That kind of blows. But everything else didn't hit them. Literally just the Marco. So if they didn't hit the Marco, Ace might actually like be wild. Queen. I don't think Queen has taken an event. Maybe it took one. But yeah, Queen is a deck that can go toe-to-toe with Katakuri. Why? Because they can fill the board with blockers and they can heal. They can out-heal the Katakuri deck, essentially, right? I mean, yeah, like, because like Big Mom comes down, you lose a life, but then your opponent gains life, and then you can match that the following turn by gaining the life, right? So you kind of like negate that the healing pressure that they get on you. Not the healing pressure, but the trashing your life part. So Queen plus the blue might be enough to take over Katakuri. Like, Katakuri's conversion rate was pretty bad. And it's hard to say if that was because of the representation of red or because like other decks were like still had okay matchups against Katakuri. It's hard to, I don't know. So anyway, I'll end this before it gets to 20 minutes. Katakuri's got a target on its back. TLDR didn't read. Katakuri's got a target on its back. Everyone's gonna be looking at it. Surprised they didn't hit it because that was like the main thing people talked about was Big Mom in this deck is too oppressive if you see multiple of them, kind of like why they hit the 9-drop Whitebeard, and then it just shuts a lot of decks out. It feels like it shuts Rebecca out. It feels like it shuts down Doflamingo. Queen, I think, can survive it. Blue, any blue deck is having a hard time, but now I think but now you guys have to think like, well, now all these decks don't have to worry about Whitebeard. They don't have to worry about like, okay, what's my answer to Whitebeard? All right, I look at my 50 cards and I say to myself, this is a great deck. I love this deck. Well, how do I deal with Whitebeard? And now you have to change your deck to deal with Whitebeard. Whitebeard, I feel, for the entire format, was a deck that changed people's deck building, right? we had to play around the fact that there's this 6K leader that exists, and they can just out defensive everything until they win with a good curve. Now we don't have to worry about that. Now my Rush Zoro is going to work every time against every deck. It's perfectly statted. I'm no longer going to sit in front of a leader that just makes my deck worse, and I need to offset that. Funny enough, decks like Luffy, the starter deck Luffy, are now worse. I feel like one of the biggest reasons the Luffy deck was strong was because it could answer that 6K body Whitebeard energy, right? Like, I could play my Sakazuki, sure, I'd lose a card, but I'd KO one of your guys, get a Dawn, and still attack you for the turn. But a lot of decks couldn't do that. Like, advance board and attack the Whitebeard, which is one of the reasons why Whitebeard felt like they just had so many cards. So let's get going. I advance my board, but I can't attack you, so you don't lose that card. So, I don't know. Like, now, blue decks can easily run, 3 red rocks, 4 red rocks. Like, some of them were like a lot of them. I feel like not every deck was like maxing out on red rocks. I don't think. I think like they just weren't. Like, they were like I like sure that the red rock's great against. The red rocks just weren't doing anything against red because they're too expensive and it's so darn inefficient to try to deal with the cards with red rock that I'm just gonna go 3K worlds and hope for the best, right? Now they can run the red rocks. Now you can red rock the big mom. Sure, you go down 1 life and they go up 1 life, but you at least get the body off of board efficiently, right? They're 10 Dawn to your 6 Dawn. I keep hitting my mic. I'm sorry. So now, blue decks are open to playing 4 red rock and it's not a big deal. What does yellow, like, other than the 10 drop big, like, what does Crocodile do? Like, they can run 9 drop Kaido for some pressure, like, especially Playhouse Disney. Crocodile can, they can heal. They can kind of counter the Katakuri Big Mom, but they just don't have a card that really answers the Big Mom herself. So maybe they're just done for. I don't know. Green, I feel like green was supposed to be one of the best decks of the format. Or I remember when Kinemon was supposed to be one of the best decks of the format, and it just wasn't. Red was too good. Kinemon just ran too many non-counter cards, and against Zoro, Law, and Whitebeard, you needed a lot of counter cards to try to get to the late game. But with green coming back, if green comes back, Law gets worse. And maybe purple even has room to come back too, because now they have time to Kaido can now 10 drop you. That's still a hell of a card. I think people forget about that. Law, I feel like I've said it multiple times. Law in set 1, like, the reason Law is good now is because green and purple don't exist, right? They realistically don't, other than Dofi. Green and purple just don't exist in this meta. If those two colors existed, Law would have a hard time. I remember playing against. I remember set 1, I played Law, I played against Kaido, and it felt like A, I was playing with 3 life, and B, they could answer my board every turn, out-dawn me because they had Onigashima, and just deal with my board every turn efficiently. And they had answers for everything. And then they just 10 drop you to just get it all done with. Yeah, there were games I won, but it wasn't easy. And same with green. Green, the old school, Okiku, Nekomamushi, tap your stuff, Yamato, tap your stuff, and then just attack into it for free. You can't play these. Right now, Law kind of eats good because they can establish a couple bodies and then just not lose. And not lose them. But because people aren't playing Vistas that much. And Fire Fist is a card, but realistically, most people, you can go you go even, right? Because I'm Law, I used Nami to search 1, and then I play a blocker. Oh, you Fire Fisted both of them. You went down 2 cards, but my Nami replaced itself, so I'm only down 1 card. You get my point. Oh man, I don't know. This is a wild thing to go to bed on. We're at 24 minutes. I'm so sorry. Oh, I'm so sorry. I get excited, man. And this is one of those things where I wish I could just call somebody up and we just chat for 20 minutes and then I make a video on it. But that's my life. Yeah. Magellan like had a great Whitebeard matchup, and like, oh, I don't know. And the community reaction is funny. Everyone's like, "Oh, law's dead." Everyone, like, people are like, "Oh, I'm gonna move to Japan." I'm like, I don't know if things are better over there right now. Yeah, it's interesting, especially with the starter deck coming out. And, you know, nationals is a thing we constantly need to think about. And people were pretty convinced that OP5 would be finally the meta that gets Whitebeard out of here, just because of how purple Luffy is and Nell is. Because Nell is also one of the kings of the one more turn. So it's just interesting stuff, man. I don't know what else to say. It's very interesting stuff. I don't know what else to say. I've said that multiple times now. We're on 26 minutes. Like, share, subscribe. See you guys. Like, just let me know. Let me know what you guys are thinking. I'm thinking. We're all thinking. Maybe I'll do a follow-up video. Thanks, Eggman, for letting me use your content for this video that I made at almost 2 o'clock in the morning. So, peace.